Testing, testing, testing. Dear Abba Yahuwah, in the mighty name of your son Yahushua, obviously I will come before you thanking you, giving you esteem, Abba Yahuwah, and praise for everything that you're doing, everything that you're yet going to do innocent to us, Abba Yahuwah. We come, Abba Yahuwah, asking for forgiveness of any and all sin that we've committed, asking, Abba Yahuwah, that you will blot out our transgressions so that there may be nothing between us and you, Abba Yahuwah, in this hour. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you will create within us, Abba Yahuwah, a clean heart and renew within us a right ruach to praise you, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you will remove, Abba Yahuwah, and kill the old man, Abba Yahuwah. The old man, old woman, Abba Yahuwah, that we once were, Abba Yahuwah. Abba Yahuwah, those, Abba Yahuwah, that were not beneficial to the kingdom, Abba Yahuwah. Those, Abba Yahuwah, that walked in sin, Abba Yahuwah. Those, Abba Yahuwah, that walked in the ways, Abba Yahuwah, of a prostitute, Abba Yahuwah, giving themselves, Abba Yahuwah, to the highest bidder, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, and we thank you, Abba Yahuwah, for salvation, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you, Abba Yahuwah, for your eternal life, Abba Yahuwah, through walking in truth, Abba Yahuwah, through obeying your commands, Abba Yahuwah, and following you, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you, we give your name esteem, Abba Yahuwah, for everything that you're doing. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, for all those, Abba Yahuwah, that are on this journey, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you will continue to bring us together, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you, Abba Yahuwah, for unifying us, Abba Yahuwah, for bringing us together, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you would touch, Abba Yahuwah, all those, Abba Yahuwah, that are listening, Abba Yahuwah, all of those under the sound of my voice, Abba Yahuwah, whether it be here in person, Abba Yahuwah, whether it be here, Abba Yahuwah, via through media broadcasting, Abba Yahuwah, YouTube, YouNow, Instagram, Abba Yahuwah, Facebook, Abba Yahuwah, whatever medium, Abba Yahuwah, that is being used, Abba Yahuwah, we pray that all be touched, Abba Yahuwah, just the same, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you, Abba Yahuwah, for all those, Abba Yahuwah, that are on their way, Abba Yahuwah, here in person, Abba Yahuwah, all those, Abba Yahuwah, that would like to visit, Abba Yahuwah, all those, Abba Yahuwah, that are looking to be a part, all those, Abba Yahuwah, that are looking, Abba Yahuwah, to ground their feet, Abba Yahuwah, in the ministry, Abba Yahuwah, in the congregation, Abba Yahuwah, of truth, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you begin to gather, Abba Yahuwah, your Hebrew people, Abba Yahuwah, that you begin to gather us, Abba Yahuwah, from the four corners, Abba Yahuwah, of the arrest, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you, we give your name esteem, Abba Yahuwah, for everything that you're doing. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, continuously, Abba Yahuwah, for unity, Abba Yahuwah, for peace, Abba Yahuwah, for shalom, Abba Yahuwah, for resolution, Abba Yahuwah. And as we come, Abba Yahuwah, before you on tonight, Abba Yahuwah, to glean, Abba Yahuwah, from your instructions, Abba Yahuwah, glean from your Torah, Abba Yahuwah, and to learn more of you, Abba Yahuwah. We ask that you will be with us, Abba Yahuwah, tonight, Abba Yahuwah, that you will open up the hearts and the minds, Abba Yahuwah, of all those, Abba Yahuwah, that will be listening, Abba Yahuwah. We pray that you will touch, Abba Yahuwah, the vessel on tonight, Abba Yahuwah. I send your prophetess Sabrina Brown, Maura Brown, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that as she opens, Abba Yahuwah, as she opens up unto you, Abba Yahuwah, that you will pour out unto her, Abba Yahuwah, to be able to convey, Abba Yahuwah, this knowledge, Abba Yahuwah, unto us, Abba Yahuwah. And we thank you, Abba Yahuwah, that we'll stand and sit ready, Abba Yahuwah, and attentive, Abba Yahuwah, to the Torah, Abba Yahuwah, and to the instructions, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you for giving name esteem, Abba Yahuwah, for everything that you're doing, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that your will be done, Abba Yahuwah, in us and through us, Abba Yahuwah. That you would have your way, Abba Yahuwah. That you will give us the songs to sing, Abba Yahuwah. That you will give us the music to play, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that your will be done, Abba Yahuwah. That you would continue to minister, Abba Yahuwah, to us, Abba Yahuwah, through song, Abba Yahuwah, through dance, Abba Yahuwah, through instructions, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you for everything that you're doing, Abba Yahuwah, in us and through us, Abba Yahuwah, as your chosen people. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, continuously, Abba Yahuwah, that your will be done, Abba Yahuwah. That, Abba Yahuwah, you will lead us and guide us, Abba Yahuwah, to those, Abba Yahuwah, that are looking for a congregation to be a part of, Abba Yahuwah, that are looking to ground their feet, to root their feet, Abba Yahuwah, in the ministry, Abba Yahuwah. Those, Abba Yahuwah, that are looking for the fellowship, Abba Yahuwah, we pray that you will lead and guide them, Abba Yahuwah. Lead and guide them, Abba Yahuwah, to those, Abba Yahuwah, congregations, Abba Yahuwah, that are truly upholding the instructions, Abba Yahuwah. Abba Yahuwah, we thank you for everything that you're doing, Abba Yahuwah, that the congregations, Abba Yahuwah, will begin to gather, Abba Yahuwah, and come together, Abba Yahuwah, and unify, Abba. We thank you, we give you esteem, Abba Yahuwah, for everything that you're doing, and everything, Abba Yahuwah, that you're doing in and through us, Abba Yahuwah, your chosen people. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you will speak to us, Abba Yahuwah, that you will touch all those, Abba Yahuwah, that are in the Americas, Abba Yahuwah, those, Abba Yahuwah, that are across, Abba Yahuwah, the arrest, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you will move, Abba Yahuwah, that you will have your way, Abba. We thank you, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you for unifying, Abba Yahuwah, those, Abba Yahuwah, that are in different countries, Abba Yahuwah, different continents, Abba Yahuwah. We pray, Abba Yahuwah, that your will be done, Abba. We thank you for everything that you're doing in us and through us, Habihu. We thank you for your son, Yahusha, Hamashiach, Habihu. We thank you, Habihu, for your Ruach HaKodesh, Habihu. We thank you, Habihu, for wisdom, Habihu. We thank you, Habihu, for everything, Habihu, that you're doing, Habihu, in us and through us, Habihu, in this hour. We pray, Habihu, continuously, Habihu, that your will be done, Habihu. That even, Habihu, that you will speak to us, Habihu, even through the times, Habihu, what may seem, Habihu, like destruction, Habihu. We thank you, Habihu, for shalom, Habihu, for a level mind, Habihu, for your chachma, Habihu, and wisdom, Habihu. We thank you, Habihu, for everything that you're doing, Habihu, innocent to us, Habihu, as your chosen people. We pray, Habihu, continuously, Habihu, that you would draw them, Habihu, those, Habihu, that can't be here, Habihu, physically, that they will, Habihu, join, Habihu, through the different mediums, Habihu, social media, Habihu. We thank you, Habihu, for everything that you're doing, Habihu, that as they come in, Habihu, that we all, Habihu, would have a repetitive heart, Habihu. Not, Habihu, bashing those, Habihu, that do wrong, Habihu, but looking unto ourselves, Habihu, to be repentant, Habihu. We pray, Habihu, that your will continue to be done, Habihu. That you'll continue to touch, Habihu, and have your way, Habihu, and just through us, Habihu, your chosen people, Habihu. We thank you, we're giving you esteem, Habihu, for everything that you're doing, Habihu. And we pray, Habihu, that you will touch, Habihu, that you'll move and have your way, Habihu. We thank you, Habihu, for everything that you're doing. For everything, Habihu, that you're doing, Habihu, and everything that you're yet going to do in and through us, Habihu, as your chosen people. And it is in your son, Yahushua, our Hamashiach's name, that we do pray. And it is so. As the Lord said upon the feet, you will hand out the praise and the gospel.
Let it rain, let it rain, let the fire of your ruach rain, let it pour, yeah, we need you more, let the fire of your ruach rain, let it rain, let it rain, let the fire of your ruach rain, let it pour, yeah, we need you more. Let the fire of your ruach rain, let it rain, let it rain, let the fire of your ruach rain, let it pour, yeah, we need you more. need you more. Let the fire of your Ruach rain. Let it rain. Let it rain. Let the fire of your Ruach rain. Let it pour. Yeah, we need you more. Let the fire of your Ruach rain. Let it rain. Let it rain. Let the fire of your Ruach rain. Let it pour. Yeah, we need you more. Let the fire of your Ruach rain. Let it rain. Let it rain. Let the fire of your Ruach rain. Let it pour. Yeah, we need you more. Let the fire of your Ruach rain. Let it rain. Let it rain. Let the fire of your Ruach rain. Let it pour. Yeah, we need you more. Let the fire of your Ruach Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Testify. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Study the Torah. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Study the Torah. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Clap my hands. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Clap my hands, believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this 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 chance anymore. Testify, believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Run on, believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Run on, believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Do my dance, believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Do my dance, believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this 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 chance anymore. Testify, believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Testify, believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Study the Torah, believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Study the Torah, believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance. 'Cause I may not have these sins, 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 may not have these sins anymore. Testify, believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore.
Come on, let's magnify our King. Hallelujah. Songs like I believe I testify while I have the chance. Hallelujah. Let's just look at our time is precious here on this earth. So we need to make sure that we're taking the time to magnify and lift up our King every opportunity and every chance that we get. And it is so.
And it is so.
Hallelujah. At this time, it is now time for our declaration. A time when we come to voice create the atmosphere. The very first voices that you hear will be a portion of the praise team, and I will be immediately followed to take us into a time of declaration.
Listen here, have you ever heard his name? I know he washed me clean, white as snow. If you have salvation, then you know you will be clean. You'll be cleansed with the Spirit. Have you ever heard of his name? Name that starts with white and ends with A. Cause it's Yahusha, yeah, oh, his name's Yahusha, his name's Yahusha, yeah, yeah. Yahusha, sweet Yahusha. Listen here, have you ever heard his name? I know he washed me clean, white as snow. If you have salvation, then you know you will
We do magnify him and we give him the highest esteem and the highest praise because he is truly worthy of all the praise. Hallelujah. Is he not worthy?
Yes.
Hallelujah. He has kept us all day long and brought us to this appointed place at this appointed time so that we may feast and be just absorb the fact that we're able to be in his certain presence. And it is so. At this time, I ask everyone to repeat after me. Say, I declare that I will take the time to read, to study, to pray, and to seek my Abba. For I know that as I walk in obedience to his word, then my life shall be in shalom. Satan, you're defeated. Your darkness is scattered. And Yahushua is solved. And it is so. Hallelujah. Come on, let's put hands together. Let's magnify it. Hallelujah. He is truly great and faithful to be praised. He is great and greatly to be praised. Hallelujah. At this time, as we have brought unto our King the clapping of our hands and given unto him the fruit of our lips, it is now time to bring unto him the fruit of our labors. And as we do so, as we come to bring seed unto our King and to sow, we do so according to the set apart written. For it says in the book of Genesis that as long as the earth remains, there remains seed time and harvest. Luke 6:38 says that when we give, it shall be given unto us good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall be overcome from men and given unto our bosom. 2 Corinthians 9 declares that Yahweh loves a cheerful giver. He gives seed to the sower, bread for our food, and he multiplies our seed sown, and increases the fruits of our righteousness, that we may abound unto every good portion. Amos comes full circle to let us know that the time is coming and now is, when the reaper shall overtake the sower. So as we come preparing to sow our seed, we don't understand that not only is it seed time, but what time is it?
Harvest time.
What time is it?
Harvest time.
It truly is harvest time. If you need the tithe and offering, raise your hand. And our ushers will be more than happy to get one to you. For those of you that are viewing by way of the ministry page, if you would like to root this ministry and you would like to sow seed into good ground, then press the donate button and follow the instructions therein. For those of you that are viewing otherwise on the internet, Facebook, however you're watching us, if you desire to sow seed and you prefer to use PayPal, and just send us your information, let us know, and we will get the link to you and correspond accordingly. Again, we thank you in advance for your seeds of donations of all the support, and we can magnify and thank all those that already are regular supporters of this work, because you truly do make ministry happen. And again, we thank you.
Hallelujah.
music. Come on where you are. We can see unto our King. We thank you, Abba, for increasing the fruit of our righteousness. We walk in obedience in your word. We do magnify you, Abba, for all that you've given unto us. We thank you for how you make provision for us, and for you are our provision. We do magnify you, for you said that if we're willing and obedient, that we shall eat the fatness of this land and the greatness that you have therein for us, that you have provided for us. We thank you that we walk in obedience to your Torah, and we thank you that we are now partakers, not just spectators, but partakers of all that you have for us in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, and it is so. And it is so. Come on, put your hands together, let's magnify him. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. We magnify our Abba, for it is now time for us to receive from his set of our written. And I have a little question for you on this evening that comes from Psalm 119, the event section of Psalm 119. It says, "Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way?" And for those of us that know the rest of that, then you can finish it in your mind. But I want to leave you with that question. Wherewithal shall a young man or even woman cleanse his way? Where is the way that we as the people of our Abba can cleanse our way? How do we get clean? Hallelujah. How do we get clean? What is it that Abba has in store for our lives? I know many of us tune in, and I see many of you tune in and you enjoy the singing, and that's wonderful. You enjoy the praise and the worship, and that's just magnificent. But the part that is going to sustain our lives is right here. I get to see someone go to a restaurant and they come in and they partake of the appetizers and they leave. Now sometimes if you ain't got but a few dollars, you might go in and decide to go a little something and just head on back out. If you go to Bluefin, you might just get the little smoked chicken spring rolls and them things $7 by itself. So that's a meal right there. And so, but you might come in and get a little something and head on out. But I adjure you today to stick and stay. And again, it's completely up to you, because I just leave you with that question. Do you know what the Abba has in store for your life? Do you know what his next marching orders are for you? And if you answer yes, then you're wiser than most. But anyway, we know that God has much in store, and the only way that we're going to get it is by taking heed thereunto his word, his Torah. So his writings are what is going to keep us and instruct us and guide us in the way that we're supposed to live our lives as his chosen and set apart people. So without further ado, to get the questions that you need answered, and I know you have questions. Hallelujah. We're naturally curious. Hallelujah. We're naturally curious. So for those of you that have many questions on the outlet, and I've seen you post your questions, and there are so many answers coming forward, and I promise you, that many of the questions that you have will be answered on this evening. All you have to do is stick and stay, because the best is truly yet to come. Because we have truly been given a gift by God, one who is truly able to preach, teach, and reach, and even lets us know in his set apart writ that he says, tells his secret things unto his prophets. Hallelujah. And so you're in for a treat, because we happen to have one of his very own prophets right here, a true end-time prophet if there ever was one. Hallelujah. When she tell you that a chicken dips you up, you got a chicken wing for the king. Got some red man, some skull, something somewhere, I promise you. Hallelujah. And it is so. Hallelujah. Might be some of that grandma brand. I don't know what the other brands there are. But without further ado, I'm about to get out your way, because truly the best is yet to come. So let us put our hands together and let us receive one who is going to come and break the hymn of life on this evening. My Lord, the senior pastor of Blessed Christian Viewers Kingdom, the Bread Belief Ministries, our very own apostle, senior prophetess, Sabrina Brown. Put your hands together. She comes to break the hymn of life.
Come on, let's worship Him. Come on, let's worship Him. Let's worship Him. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, let's worship Him. He's worthy, He's worthy. Come on, He's worthy, He's worthy to be worshipped. You're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, He's worthy, He's worthy. Come on, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. Hallelujah, He's worthy. Yahuwah, He's worthy. Yahuwah, we praise you. Yahuwah, we exalt you tonight. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, He's worthy, He's worthy. Yahuwah, we praise you, we praise you. We lift you up, we lift you high. Hallelujah. Come on, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, He's worthy, He's worthy, He's worthy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, you can worship Him. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. We praise you. We praise you. We give you the fruit of our lips as you continue to maroon us, to show us, hallelujah, how you desire for us to live for you. You continue to bring forth your revelation knowledge, your instructions. We Torah you this night, Abba Yah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Abba Yahuwah. You're worthy, you're worthy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. He's worthy, he's worthy. Come on, put your hands together and Baruch Abba Yahuwah. For all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy. You're worthy, you're worthy. Hallelujah. He's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy. Yahuwah, Yahuwah. You're worthy, you're worthy. Yahuwah, you're worthy, you're worthy. Our King. Hallelujah. You're worthy, you're worthy. Where would we be without you? Where would we be without you? Hallelujah. He's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. You're worthy, you're worthy. He's worthy, he's worthy. Every day he's worthy. He's worthy. There is none like him. None like him, none like him, none like him. Hallelujah, hallelujah. From the depths of my being, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. He's worthy, he's worthy. Yes, he is. You're worthy, you're worthy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. From the moment we rise to the time we close our eyes, you're worthy, our Yahuwah. You're worthy. You're worthy. Hallelujah. More precious than silver and gold. More precious than diamonds. More precious than all money in the world. Hallelujah. 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 Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Just the sound of his name. Just the sound of his name. Yahuwah, Yahuwah. He's our King. He's our Abba. He's our provider. He's our protector. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. You're worthy, you're worthy. Yes, he is, he's worthy. Every day of your life, every day of my life, he's worthy. Yes, he is. And I appreciate it. Yes, I do. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. It's all right to get caught up in the praises of our God. Our Yahuwah. It's all right to get caught up in praising him. Because he alone is worthy. He alone is worthy. He's worthy. He's worthy. Yes, he is. He's worthy. And when we say Yahuwah, hallelujah, we know Yahuwah and Yahusha are one. Hallelujah. Where would we be without the works of Yahusha? Where would we be without him being our solid rock, our instructor, our guide? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. He's worthy. Yes, he is. Hallelujah. 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 It's all right after a long day, after a short day, to come together and praise his name.
praise His name. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Some of the stuff we have to put up throughout the day and throughout the week. I am so thankful that we have a place that we can come after we've done all that we need to do for the day. And when we didn't get done, we'll get done. Yahuwah willing tomorrow. We can come into a place and worship Him. And worship Him by name. Not a title or a substitute. But truly give Him praise for all that He's doing, all that He's done, and all that He's yet going to do. I appreciate it every day of my life. And every day I study to show myself approved unto Him. A workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing His truth. Every day I study, He's bringing something more to me. It may not be new to you, but it's new to me. Every day He's giving me access to things that I need. I'm not talking about food and clothes. I'm talking about the Torah. Because when everything else fades and everything else dissipates and is destroyed, the Torah, His instructions will still yet remain. And that is what's going to cause us to remain. And it is so. And it is so. We will remain because we are followers and participants of His instructions. We follow them. We don't just read them. We are owners. We have ownership of the instructions. We own it and it owns us. And it is so.
It is so.
And it is so. Where would I be without His instructions? I surely wouldn't be here. But I appreciate Him for every day of my life that He has allowed me to arise, quam in Him, in truth. And every day He's bringing me to another level of truth. Another level. And I do appreciate you, Yahuwah, for everything that you do and everything that you have done. In the mighty name of your Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We're going to do the Baruch of the Torah. All right, repeat with me. Baruch Yahuwah.
Baruch Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch.
For all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
Who selected us from all the people.
And gave us His Torah.
He gave us His Torah.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
Gave us the Torah of truth.
And implanted eternal life within us.
And then granted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now we will have the reading of the 10 Commandments by Apostle Brown, coming from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verses 6 and 22. And it is so.
And it is so. Adam, I am Yahuwah your power, which brought you out of the land of Israel from the face of slavery. Beth, you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the Mayim beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them, for I Yahuwah your power, my jealous power. Visiting the iniquity of ours upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. And show mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it. For Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless to takes his name and empties it. David, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work. You nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates. That your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Israel, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by your stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. And honor Yahweh your image, Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged, and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. Why? You shall not murder. Saying, neither shall you commit adultery. Ket, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. You, neither shall you desire your neighbor's wife, neither shall you covet your neighbor's bed, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all your assembly in the mountain, out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud and of the thick darkness with a great voice, and he added no more, and he wrote them in 2 tables of stone, and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. Yahusha, the son of Nun, chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. Only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to the Torah which Moshe, my servant, commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as I have tailored it to fit a time of confession, repeat with me. I will not let this scroll of the Torah depart out of my mouth. But I shall meditate in it. Day and night. That I may observe to do. According to all that is written in it. For then I shall make my way prosperous. And act wisely. Now look at your neighbor, tell your neighbor, you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Look at your other neighbor, tell your other neighbor, and you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Now take your hand and place it over your heart and say, Abba Yah, I shall act wisely. Come on, Abba Yah, I shall act wisely. I endeavor to act wisely. I endeavor to act wisely. I endeavor to act wisely. And it is so. And it is so. It's important that we act wisely, no matter what position we find ourselves in. And it is so. We're going to read Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. I have with these verses. Not that I forget, but it constantly reminds us of how we are to govern ourselves and what we are not to forget. I know we say, I'll never forget, I'll never, ever forget. No, we won't forget, because repetition is very important now to us. We must be repetitious in our studying and in our looking over the scrolls. We should never, ever forget none of the writings, none of them, ever. Chapter 6 of Deuteronomy, verses 1 through 18, and it reads, These are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it. Excuse me. That you might fear Yahuwah your power, to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yisrael, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah, power of your Abbas, has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah our supreme one, Yahuwah is the God. Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah is our supreme one, Yahuwah is the God. And you shall ahab Yahuwah your supreme one with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, to fall, to bind to the mind. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into land which he swore to your Abbas, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great cities which you did not build, great houses full of great things, which you filled not, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah, which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power, and serve him, and shall swear by his name. By his name. That's why it's important that we make sure our mouths are exclaiming his name, Yahuwah. You shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah, your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah, your power, be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah, your power, as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah, your power, and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is great in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which Yahuwah swore unto your Abbas, and it is so. And it is so. And it is so. Come on, put your hands together and stand Mishnah 15 and 8, the sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful, and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yah, but the prayer of the upright, it is your delight. Mishnah 3 and 4, so shall we find great understanding and high esteem in the sight of judgment of your word and man. And it is so. And it is so. Tehillim 1 and 1, Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the instructions of Abba Yahuwah, and he doth meditate upon it. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. It is so. Hebrews 11 and 6, but without belief it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Yehukin and Aleph 5, 4 and 5. For whatsoever is born of Yahuwah overcometh the world. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our belief. Who is he that overcometh the world? But he that believeth that Yahusha is the son of Yahuwah. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. Yehukin and Aleph 2, 5 and 6. But whoever keeps his Torah, truly the Ahab of Yahuwah is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought himself also to walk, just as he walked. And it is so. And it is so. Verse 17, and the world passes away and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of Yahuwah abideth forever. Somebody say abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
Say it again, abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Yehukin and Moshiach, Mark 11:24. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you shall have them. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. I believe
is so.
Let us repeat this together as this is our declaration for this night. Repeat with me. We subdue ignorance.
We subdue ignorance
With Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
We arrest hate.
We arrest hate
With Torah ahava.
with Torah ahava.
We release Torah truth
We release Torah truth
to the four extremities
to the four extremities
of the earth, where your Israelites
where the Israelites
reside.
reside.
We declare
We declare
healing,
healing,
shalom,
shalom,
deliverance,
deliverance,
and salvation
and salvation
to the body
to the body
of Yahuwah
of Yahuwah
through Yahusha,
through Yahushua,
our Mashiach.
our Mashiach.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now, as we have come to seal our confession and our praise, worship, and intercession and requests of our Lord Yahuwah, let us bow before our King and let us recite this together. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the liberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the liberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We have just recited to him 19 and 15. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. You have to see it in his presence. Hallelujah. We adore you. We adore you. He's worthy. Yes, he is. He's worthy. He's worthy. I appreciate him every day of my life. And so should you appreciate him every day of your life. It ought to give you great pleasure to know who you are, to know that we are the children of power, that we are a royal priesthood. Not because we selected ourselves, but because he selected us.
That's right.
And he chose to cause us to rise and shine in his truth.
Right.
He caused us to hear and be shook from that place of error and ignorance. Ignorance is just not knowing. You know, we get angry when people call us, you just ignorant. Well, some things we were ignorant to.
Right.
Ignorance just means a lack of understanding or knowing a thing. And so now that we are not ignorant anymore, we have come to understand who he is. And I've come to understand that he does have a name. And his name is Yahuwah.
Right.
And so it behooves us to truly get our mouths fixed to say that. I've been studying, and I tell you, looking at the Hebrew language, you have to just be serious about it. That's all. It's not a hard thing.
That's
You
right.
have to be serious, and you really have to take time and dive into it. And I've been looking at some things and looking at different things and going back over the language, which is very important to our development and our growth. Because you have to understand his name is in our language.
That's right.
And when we are disconnected from our language, we are disconnected from so many valuable truths. I didn't realize in one letter how much is in that one letter. Just like when you look at a seed, you wouldn't believe that an acorn seed would bring forth such a big yapah tree. Same thing as a mustard seed, as small as it is, but look at what comes with it. Same thing when we look at the alphabet, not alphabet, alphabet. It's so much, so I appreciate being put on the track to understand the language and to understand that we need to truly be able to understand it, comprehend it, read it, write it, spell it, read it, write it, and convey it. And so it is important that we understand these things. And as we're learning, we until we get to the point to where we can do away with the Latin English. We have to paraclete them. You're following me?
Yes.
And so we have to use this, but my goal truly is to be able to walk completely in the language, read it, write it, use it, write, do all my stuff in Hebrew. That's what I'm learning. I'm excited. You know, when you're learning something for the first time, you're being able to understand it. Because before it was just like a bunch of little squiggly lines. It's like, what is that? That's just a bunch of unknown language. It's unknown letters. But now, more and more, little by little, he's awakening, or he is revitalizing to understand these things. So I appreciate him for that. For every level, our praise are to increase as well, because you have to understand, for everything that we are coming to understand, we are to praise him. That's showing that we are grateful and we are thankful because he trusts us with it. You gotta understand, every time he gives us a revelation or releases something new, that's because he trusts us with it. If he didn't trust us, he wouldn't give it to us.
That's right.
And so I truly do appreciate him. We want to turn our attention back to Matthew chapter 5. Yahusha preaches the Sermon on the Mount. And we're going to continue to follow it. There's a lot of things that I learned on this day concerning a lot. And there's one particular thing I want us to get to in here. Because I want to dismiss and dismantle some things that have become truth for us as a people. And so we want to go through this. We stopped at verse 10. And so we want to start back at chapter 5, verse 10. And we're going to go, as I say, as I was studying, looking at some things on today, things with the name of Yahuwah, and also looking at what we have come to know as the Beatitudes, right. For us to look at. So we're going to start at verse 10, and we're going to begin to read from there. And we're going to do, I guess we're going to kind of move, because there's a particular part that I really want to get to on tonight. So, okay. We're going to start at verse 10, 11, 12, and 13. We're going to read 4 verses. We're chapter 5, verses 10, 11, 12, 13, 44. And we want to look at some things. And like I said, then before it's over, I want to share something with you that I saw. And I'm still learning, but this is just phenomenal to me as I'm learning and still looking at the different things once again concerning the name of Yahuwah. When you have it, say it is so.
And it is so.
10, 12, you 10, 11, 12, 13. You got it? Yes. Okay. He's going to read that. I'll let you read it.
Abraham the scriptures. Baruch are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of Shemaim. Baruch are they when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you, falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in the Shemaim. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost its flavor, then how shall it be salted? Therefore be good for nothing, but to be cast out, and to be tread underfoot of men. 14, you are the light of the world. A city that is set on a mountain cannot be hid. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, once again, we're looking at this very familiar passage writing unto us. Baruch are they which persecute, which are persecuted for uprightness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of Shemaim. In other words, you know that you live right and you truly adhere to the instructions of our Yah, which is the Torah, you're going to be persecuted. You're going to be ridiculed. You're going to be talked about. These are some of the things to look forward to. These are some of the things to be accepted. So it's not one of those things that when this happens unto us that we should be alarmed or that we should be overtaken by it. It comes with the package. It's a package deal. It comes with it.
That's right.
And he's saying that Baruch are they which are persecuted for uprightness' sake. And so, for theirs is the kingdom of Shemayim. In other words, it's allowing us to know that it's ours in the earth. Are you following me? Yes. It's ours in the earth. And he said, Baruch are you when men shall revile you and persecute you and shall say all manner of evil against you. Once again, it is important that you understand the importance of what is going to come against you. Falsely for my sake. They're going to talk against you in a manner of falsehood. So once again, we cannot get alarmed behind these things, but it comes with the package deal. It is a package deal. This is one of the things that we must gird ourselves up and be prepared for. We know that when you come into truth and you're living in truth, and that you are truly living it, and your life is emulating it, and your life is showing it, and especially when you are doing it and you have no problem with speaking truth and you have no problem with letting people know, then people are going to get upset with you, especially when they're looking for the old you. So you can't expect people that once knew you, when you come to them in a manner now that's following up in truth, for them to accept you, especially when they don't want truth.
That's right.
So that's one of the things that we must understand. You've got to understand that when you walk away from that way of life, if people don't walk away with you and they don't accept it, you can't expect them, now that you're in truth, to accept you and accept what you're saying. Right. So once again, this is where we have to truly gird ourselves, gird our loins, that place of strength, and know that though there are those that will persecute and talk about us, there are those that will embrace us and that will accept us because they are walking in truth as well. So that's important for us to understand. Then look what he comes and he says now. And you have to understand, if you are walking in any type of position or title, you have to understand greater falls upon us because we have been given a greater mandate to live this life and to make sure that we are living it according to everything that he puts before us so that we can be that example. This is why when you see people that are outside of truth, that are calling themselves leaders, you know automatically when you read in the scroll that that's not the way they should be governing themselves, then you know that's not the example or the way you should be basically following. That's almost a no-brainer. Are y'all following me? Yes. So it's important that we understand these things. Are you here? Yes. And it is so. And it is so. You are the salt of the earth, but the salt has lost, if the salt has lost its flavor, then how shall it be salted? Therefore, it would be good for nothing but to be cast out and to be tread under foot of men. You have to understand, salt was spoke about because it was a part of covenant. Right. So if we lose our position in covenant, then what are we worth? You have to understand what makes us worth something is our covenant in Abba Yahuwah. Are y'all following me? Yes. Because outside of covenant, what is your worth? We have no worth outside of covenant. That's right. Are you following me? Yes. Because if you say you're worth something out of covenant, then what is covenant? The covenant of Abba Yah. Now remember, in the writings, in the Midbar 18 and 19, it talks about salt. All of the sacrifices were made with salt. So salt was the ingredient to signify the covenants. Yahusha used the drash to echo the covenant of Yisrael, reminding them to be committed, repent, and return to the covenants. Once again, if we're outside of covenant, then what is our lives truly worth? Because a person can say, well, you know, my assets are $1 million, but we ain't talking about your assets. We're talking about how much are you worth if you are not the salt. Right. Because you have to understand, salt, as we are the salt, we also are preservers. So if we've lost our saltiness to preserve and to bring in, then what good are we? Because salt is nothing if it has no saltiness. And that means when you have salt that has no saltiness, that means you have been using it extremely old. That's right. Extremely old. So that says that it takes a lot for us to lose our saltiness. But at the same time, we don't want to get on the path
Right.
of trying to lose the saltiness. You want to stay salty.
That's right.
Are you following me? So that you can maintain your position in the covenant
That's
or
right.
covenants. So it's important that we understand that. Now look at this. Let's look at this. He also tells us, you are the light. Now let's go back. Wait, hold on. And to be tread under foot of men. We wonder why sometimes people are tread upon by foot of men. It's because they have no saltiness.
Right.
So if your life means nothing to other people, then what are they going to do? They just going to run over you because they don't value you. They don't value who you are or what you represent. This is why it's important that we represent the kingdom.
That's right.
Because when you represent the kingdom, guess what? People may hate you and they may despise you, but they yet have to respect your stand that you take. But if you take no stand, then you can't expect people to respect you.
That's right.
You can't expect people to respect you. So it's important that we understand that. We are the light, and I know it says you are the light of the world. A city that is set on a mountain cannot be hid. Well, you have to understand, when you're talking about light, light is always set up high. Whenever you set light up, because when you position it in a higher place, it gives a better, it's in a better position to bring forth illumination. It's in a better position to bring forth that light. I always like to say it in this manner as he's given it to me. When you think about light, you also think about illumination. When there is the absence of light, there is the absence of illumination, and that means darkness. And whenever darkness is there, we can look at darkness in two ways. Darkness means the absence of light or the absence of understanding. So if we are the light of the world, a city that's set on a mountain that cannot be hid, what happens when we have no light? That means people can't see. That means people cannot be brought into what? Truth. Right. So it's important that we understand that. Once again, you have to look at light in two ways. It illuminates and brings forth a natural luminescence, and then it also brings forth understanding. Because where the absence of light is, in both connotations, that means absence of understanding and also absence of illumination.
That's right.
Darkness. And we don't want to be dark, and neither do we want to be in a place where our light needs to be shining, and we can't shine because we are under a hill. Now you have to understand, when it talks about being hidden, what that represents, they had things that they would put lights out with, and they would basically snuff it or smother it. Thank you. They would smother it. Now, this speaks about the disciples of Yahushua who were Torah keepers. Light here signifies keeping the commandments. So when we are commandment keepers, once again, what do? We bring forth truth. We bring forth light, illumination. We illuminate. We bring forth understanding. But when that light is not there, you cannot bring truth to anybody. You'll be in a dark place, and so will they. So will they. So will they. Only the Torah is called the light.
That's right.
In Mishlei 6:23, and in Tehillim 119 and 105. The only way we can be a light to the world is by keeping Torah and the commandments of Yahuwah in a world that is lawless or Torahless and living in its own heathen laws. This is what sets us apart from the rest as Yahuwah's true light. This is what sets us apart from the church, because the church says they are the light. But if we are the light, now you have to understand, once again, when you look at the church world and you look at the church arena, there are a lot of things that's going on, a lot of things that have been propagated, a lot of things that you continue to see. People say, well, people are getting healed and they're getting delivered. You have to look at that. Let's look at the ratio. 1,000 people are in a building. And most of the time, in that building, they say, well, we had this many get healed. They only let 2 or 3 testify. So if only 2 or 3 testified out of 1,000, the ratio is not that great at all. If truly healing is for the children, then how come if all of them are the children, only 2 or 3 maybe get healed? Once again, you have to understand, there is a false light and then there's a real light. The light that we have here that we use to light the building is a artificial light. It is not a real light. It's artificial. Because with time, that light is going to wear out, and then the filament in it is going to either break or wear out, which will cause it to not shine anymore. So it's important that we understand that we don't have to be plugged into the wall. We don't have to be plugged in. We don't have filaments. But we do have the Torah, which acts like a filament. It is what keeps us lit. It is what keeps us shining bright. And if we don't continue to find ourselves in that, then we will find ourselves getting darker and darker. And eventually we will not be salty, and neither will we have light. We'll be just like everybody else, dark.
That's right.
And whenever there's the absence of illumination and the absence of light, that represents darkness and it represents ignorance.
That's right.
Because if we don't continue to tell people about Torah truth, who will? And I'm talking about the whole nation of Yisrael. Not saying we're not, but it's a continual process. We just don't stop. It's an ongoing process. The true light comes once again from Yahuwah and from the Torah. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right. Let us look at 15. Yeah, 15. Let's look at 15. 15, 16, 17, and 18. Come on.
So, y'all, 15. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a menorah, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
And it is so. Now once again, neither do men light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand. And we know that lampstand is the menorah. And it gives light to all that are in the bed. Now you have to understand what that represents. We represent the menorah.
That's right.
We represent that light is supposed to shine, because you have to understand the priests never cease from working. They work day and night. So the light was always shining. There was light that was always being produced. There was light that was always being shown forth from the tabernacle. So it's important that we understand our light is to always shine, not just sometime, not just when we feel great, not just when everything's going well, but all times, even when it feels like all hell is breaking loose and ain't nothing working right.
That's right.
We're still supposed to shine. We are still supposed to shine and light the way for our mishpachah. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It is very important that we understand that. Now, it doesn't matter how many people are in the house. If you are a Torah believer and you represent Torah, then guess what? Your life can turn that whole life, that whole house around. But we got to be committed to it.
That's right.
Just like if you take one light can actually light a room if you just stay lit.
That's right.
It's important that we understand and know the power that the Torah brings about in our lives. And we understand it's the instructions of our Yah. Just put it in this manner. The Torah instructions bring power and authority in our lives.
That's right.
And when this happens, then we're able to do more by walking in obedience.
That's right.
You can't do anything if you're disobedient. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that. A lot of times people are fighting out the wind because they're disobedient. And when you're disobedient, every time you do something, it's going to be annulled. It's going to be annulled. That means it's going to be stopped, and it won't be able to proceed or go further because of disobedience. And this is one of the things that we as the children of power have to understand. You cannot get yourself out of a hole you put yourself in there.
That's right.
We have to ask him to give us the instructions on how to get out.
That's right.
Because the more you do, the deeper you dig yourself in.
That's right.
Are you following me?
Yes.
A lot of people don't like that, but it's the truth. Now, it's important that we understand the light, that the authority and the power we have when we stand in Torah truth. You can illuminate a whole house with your light, with your way of living. It's important that we understand that. Truly understand that. All right. Now, listen what he says. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your great deeds and beautify Yahuwah, which is in the Shemaiah, which is in Shemaiah. Now, how do we do that with our deeds? That means the actions of our lives. That means the very actions of our lives. This once again represents being a Torah keeper. If we are not a Torah keeper, then we cannot truly bring that to Abba Yahuwah's life if we are not living right. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that. Have you ever noticed that every time something goes on, when you look at the President of the United States and those that are around him and that represent him, every time something happens bad, it always makes him look bad. And anytime something so-called happens great, makes him look sort of great. Now you have to understand, once again, we can never make Abba Yahuwah look bad, but yet we are representatives and we don't want to represent him in the wrong manner. Never, ever do we want to do that. We want to represent him and we want our deeds, in other words, our actions, to be right. And the only way that's going to happen is that we have to follow in Torah truth.
That's right.
Listen what he says in verse 17, one of my favorite verses. He said, think not that I have come to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I have not come to destroy it, but to reveal its full intended meaning. Its full intended meaning. See, you have to understand what the King James interpretation did was brought it to a place where if you don't understand and you are not familiar with the Hebrew and really read it in the manner that's supposed to be read in, you would think that he was basically saying, I did not come to do away with it, but to fulfill it. In other words, that once he gave up his life, it was done. No, he came to bring it to show us its full intention.
That's right.
So that we could live in it in an intelligent way and not be walking around ignorant. Once again, I tell you, ignorant means that you lack the understanding. Right. And so once again, when we understand, he put them in their place. He had to show them. Think not that I have come to destroy. In other words, that I have come to rearrange it, change its order, or change its function from its foundation. Yahushua never came to do that because Yahuwah never gave him the instructions to do so.
That's right.
Contrary to popular belief. It's important we understand that. Once again, he didn't come to destroy it. Misinterpret the Torah or to do away a commandment as not for today is destroying the Torah. Well, we don't do that today because it's done away with. We don't keep the feast because we can't. You don't keep it because you don't want to.
That's right.
We can do anything we want to do if we put our heart and mind to it.
That's right.
We can't. We'll never stop. You know how people say, boy, I'm so tired of this situation. I don't know what to do. Next week, how you faring? I'm well. You still, yeah, I'm hanging on. I'm still doing what I got to do. I thought you said you couldn't, you tired of the situation. You couldn't stand it no more. But you found a niche and you found a way, watch this, to maneuver in that situation to where it didn't pull you under, but you were able to subdue it and you were able to get on top of it and not have it on top of you.
That's right.
So once again, we can do whatever we want to do when we have the will to do so. And you have to truly have a heart to want to do this. Once again, this is what misinterpreting it is. When we believe that Yahushua came to do away with it or to change it. He did not come to change it or do away with it. Once again, let's look what he says, what it says. He said, all the prophets. So that meant he was basically giving them, letting them know. He didn't do away with the prophets. Even in his time, there were still prophets, but they were dying. Because the sages and the rabbis were killing them. Because they felt like they had the voice and nobody else could have a voice but them. So they were killing them. He said, I didn't come to do away with them. So that meant they were still alive. But because of once again, the rabbis and the sages who felt like they stood in the seat of Moshiach, that they had a right, that they were the ones that were doing it. So once again, we have to understand what he is saying. He said, I have not come to destroy it, but to reveal its full intended meaning. Its full intended meaning, not a partial, but its full intended meaning. Meaning that there was a meaning to it. To destroy, therefore, would be to misinterpret and misrepresent Torah. And once again, this is a rabbinic term used to indicate Yahushua was well versed with first century Judaism and the rabbinic ways of saying things. In other words, he put it back to them in the way that they basically was putting it out at him. You know, when someone is speaking to you in a certain manner, you have to put it back to them. If someone is speaking, let's just use slang. Right. If somebody is talking to you in slang, well, you got to hit them back with slang. That's right. You got to basically talk to them on their level so that they can understand, no, I know exactly where you're coming from. Trust me, I'm not ignorant of what you're saying. Just like if you're talking to someone, someone in a high position, and you know you have to speak to them. I'm not saying you have to put on airs, but I'm saying you know how to answer them back when people think you're just foolish and you're ignorant and you're unlearned or you're immature and you don't know how to deal with them or to address them. You know, Yahushua had to deal with them, and so he had to deal with them on their terms, with their terms. Does that mean he was settling? Absolutely not, but he had to deal with them. Watch this, with their terms. Their terms. He had to talk to them on their level. And that's what he did, on their level. That's what he did, talk to them on their level, so that they could understand that he understood what he was trying to, what they were trying to say. And it is so. It is so. Now, verse 18 says, "For verily I say to you, until Shemayim and the earth pass away, one yud or nekuda," I think that's how you say it, nekuda, "shall in no wise pass from the Torah until all of it has been correctly filled up." Filled up. In other words, there is still yet much to be done. It is not done away with, even though contrary to popular belief, Christianity says it was fulfilled when he gave up his life. You have to understand, it was not done away with. That was for us to come in and be covered by his blood so that we can live it and walk it out in the right manner, covered in his blood. That's right. Because without his blood, we couldn't do it. And you still can't do it without his blood. Right. So he was showing us exactly how it was supposed to be done. So being covered in his blood, we'd be able to live and walk this life out in Torah, just as he did. That's right. Covered and having access to Abba Yahuwah. So it's important that we understand that he never did away with it. And don't believe when people come and telling you that it's been done away with. Right. That's right. That means they have no understanding, because he did not come to do away with it, but to bring it to its full intention. Now, whoever therefore shall break one of the least of these, and we know they're not least, but let's understand what it's saying, commandments, and shall teach men to do so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of Shemayim. But whoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called rabbi, which means, this says great, in the kingdom of Shemayim. For I say to you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the experts in the Torah and Pharisees, you shall in no way or in no case enter into the kingdom of Shemayim. Now, once again, let's look at this commandment. The most insignificant commandment in the Torah, which we understand none of them are. But this was being used to show people or give people a platform and even a balance. So it's important that we look at this in this manner. So once again, now, and anyone that teaches men to do so shall be called the least in the kingdom of Shemayim. But whoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called rabbi in the kingdom of Shemayim. Now, once again, you have to understand what is being spoke of right here. The whole premise of this is not gender, but who teaches truth concerning Torah. That's right. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. If you are not teaching Torah truth, then you're going to be called the least in the kingdom, because you're going to continue to lead people astray. And for those that teach people how to live in Torah truth will be called great. That's right. It's important that we understand that he's not addressing gender here. He's addressing those that are teaching error, which continue to do. Now, let's look at this. This scripture applies to rabbis, pastors, or bishops. Basically, any teacher of the scripture, so it doesn't matter your gender. If you are teaching people to go against Torah, you are wrong, and you are going to be judged. That's right. Has nothing to do with gender. Right. And this is talking about teachers. not just anybody. And if you are a believer and you're calling yourself out there trying to instruct people and you have not or don't know how to instruct people and you lead people all astray and all over the place, you're going to find yourself being in a whole lot of trouble. Anyone who teaches others to break the Torah commandments, that person is the least. And they will have the lowest status in the coming 1,000-year reign. Now, let me explain this. This is not talking about those that are in Christianity, because they don't just teach you not to follow Torah. They teach you just to aggregate it all together. Don't even fool with it at all.
That's right.
And so it's important that we understand, because Christianity wants nothing to do with Torah truth.
Right.
This is talking about those that are walking in Torah, but yet they kind of, throw a curveball out there. They curtail it. They basically give shortcuts to it. You can't do that, because when you do that, you will find yourself in error and you will find yourself in major trouble. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. If you're not teaching Torah truth, you are in error. And if you're not teaching the 10 tribes, the prostituting sheep of Yisrael, how to govern their lives and how to live by Torah truth, you are in error. Doesn't matter what your gender is.
Right.
That's right. And that is the truth. Now, here the term great is not just great as in status, but the Hebrew term for a teacher and a rabbi. Yahushua shows us by his own mouth that he will still have rabbis in the kingdom, a position confirmed by the master or sovereign one himself, because he is taking or talking about teaching, and the ones who had authority to teach in Yisrael were the rabbis, past, present, and future. Are you understanding?
Yes.
So once again, he anoints, he qualifies, and he justifies those who he calls to bring those into truth. Once again, and if you are truly a Torah believer and walking in Torah truth, you're going to teach people and tell people, baby, if you don't have shoes on your feet, make sure you have Torah. If you don't have no food in your refrigerator, make sure you still adhere and obey Torah truth. If you don't have no clothes on your back, but one pair of pants and one shirt and your seats, and that's all you have, then you better make sure you follow Torah truth.
That's right.
And don't abort the ways. Because it's better to have one pair of shoes and one outfit and have Torah than to have everything else and still be walking outside of Torah truth.
That's right.
Because you're still broke. You have nothing. Because you have made substance and things valuable, more valuable than Torah truth.
That's right.
Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand. See, I heard one preacher say, I prefer to be without breeches than to be without my Bible. Now, you have to understand the reason why I said that is because it's easy to say that when you have a jet, $2 million homes, you got all this stuff all around the globe because you have manipulated people and you have told people that the Torah is error. And that when you say Yahuwah, that you're talking about the devil. That makes me want to punch somebody in the mouth. Because you would prefer to call him by a substitute and a title than to be intimate and personal with him and know his name.
That's right.
So understand, once again, it is about teaching you to hold fast and to stay firm and to stay committed to Torah truth.
That's right.
No matter what, you can lose, we can lose everything else in this world, but we can't lose Torah.
That's right.
You have to understand, when you've been without truth and now you're in truth, you don't want to lose it because you understand that there is such a confidence that comes with this. There is such a security that comes with it because you know without a shadow of a doubt you're doing exactly what he's asked you to do.
That's right.
And what he's commanded of us to do. You don't have to wonder about, am I doing, am I really doing this right? Is this really the right way? All we have to do is look in the writings, look in the scrolls, and read it. And it tells us verbatim what we are supposed to do.
That's right.
It's important that we understand. And the thing that got our ancestors and forefathers in trouble is they would not keep the Sabbath rest. They wouldn't keep it. And let me tell you something. Many may believe, well, the Sabbath rest, what is important about the Sabbath rest and why was it so important to Abiyah? Because it was a day that he said that he had given unto us to rest. When you don't follow the principle of resting, look at what happens. I know when we were out there on Saturdays of Sabbath rest, we were all over the place. We were shopping, we was buying, we was eating pork, we was doing everything. Because you have to understand, when you open yourself up to one way of error, you just open yourself up to all ways of error. Because not just keeping the Sabbath won't be enough. You'll start doing other things because you'll get loose with your lifestyle.
That's right.
And nothing will have preeminence. You will begin to stretch out your borders. You begin to, where you know you have to stop right here, you'll push it over a little bit and say, well, that wasn't too bad. You know, I had to get that done. That was necessary. That was important.
Right.
And then the next thing you know, it'll go from one day, doing it one time, to it becomes now a habit. To where now we won't even adhere to the commandments. We'll find ourselves being and doing something else. Yet people call us legalistic, but you can say that all day long. But Abba Yah is the one, Abba Yahuwah is the one who set forth these instructions for us as his chosen people.
That's right.
So for those that are not his chosen, I don't expect you or anybody else to understand unless you have his heart.
Right.
And if he hasn't given you his heart, then of course you will not know what is pleasing to him and what is displeasing. So that's one of the things we have to understand. Never set up and argue with people that don't understand.
That's right.
If they don't understand, the only thing we can do is pray, intercede. And if intercession, and if Abba Yahuwah is not moved by the intercession to move and bring them into a place of understanding, then there is nothing you or I can do.
That's right.
And once again, we have to stay in a place of intercession. Once again, when you understand and you have been quam, when he's caused you to rise into his truth, then there's no way to go back.
That's right.
You ought to not want to go back. You ought to not ever want to go back to that way. There is nothing tantalizing, tempting about going back. Are you following me? There is nothing in Christianity I want, and there is nothing truly in the world that I want, except to see the prostituting sheep of Yisrael come into truth. That's the only thing that I want in the world, and that's what I want out of Christianity. The rest of it, they can have it.
That's right.
Because I don't want anything out of it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
There's nothing there I want, and that's true. Nothing at all. Been there, done that. There's nothing in there for me. And I don't want to be where he's not welcome. How about you?
Yes.
That's right.
I don't want to be nowhere where he's not welcome. No, I don't want to be nowhere where he's not welcome. When you see people acting nutty because somebody come in there and begin to talk about some of the stuff I've been seeing, people all on the folk face clapping and talking about all that nonsense, and then you want to sit there and say you following the truth, and you got European up on the wall, but you say because we was slaves and we was brought and we was just treated so rough, but we sure think our master that's up here on the wall, who's European. But then when you come in and say, but that's not him, y'all. And even if you put a melanated one, that's not him. His name is not Jesus.
That's right.
His name is Yahushua.
That's right.
And he is our Mashiach. It's important that we understand that and we don't vacillate and we be going backwards and forward. That's just like me calling my ish another name. Why would I do that? That means no relationship. And then I'm not going to call him just a substitute. You know, we call each other the different names, you know, the little pet names. Honey, baby, sweetheart, you know, booger. That's my little pet name for it. And so forth. But when it comes down to talking to him, I have to call him by his name. And I address him by his name because we're personal, we're intimate. Are you following me? And I'm talking about when we are conversating. So you want to talk to somebody, and this is when they know you're serious because you have acknowledged they do have a name.
That's right.
And so it's important that we understand that. And he shared it with us. And I don't want to be anywhere where his name is not accepted, because where his name is not accepted, he's not accepted.
That's right.
And I don't want to go where he's not accepted unless he tell me to go and present his name. And if they don't want him there, you better know I'm out of there.
That's right.
Quick, fast, and hurry. Now, for I say to you that except your righteousness exceeds, or your uprightness exceeds, the righteousness or the uprightness of the experts in the Torah and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter the kingdom of Shemayim. In other words, he is telling them, because they studied. Now you have to understand, they studied, and it was their desire to walk in truth, but they just had that way that was still not right. But their pursuance of it, they pursued it, and they continue to pursue it. So he's saying that if they could do it, then except yours exceeds theirs, then you have no part. Now that tells you something, because he used them as an example, because they were seeking him, but they were seeking him in the wrong manner. What about us? How do we seek him? How do we seek him? You seek him when you are communicating with him. Right. You seek him when you are going through the Torah, when you're going through, even, let me tell y'all something, the Apocrypha, the word, the scriptures they took out, or the scrolls they took out of there, you can see why they took them out, because they couldn't understand them. They couldn't understand them. Right. I was reading in Ezra, Second Ezra, chapter 5, and I'm still reading it, because there was something Ezra, right? Yes. Bet, chapter 5. And I was reading something because it sounds very familiar with the time we're in now. And I was sitting there and I was reading, and I said, I understand why they took a lot of these out, because they couldn't understand it. So in order to keep us docile and to keep us without understanding, they took certain things out to keep us wondering. But now that we have it, we don't have to wonder. All we have to do is read and communicate with Abba Yah, and he'll give us what to understand about it.
That's right.
Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Y'all know something going on when we're in the spring and it still feel like we're in the winter.
Right.
Y'all know something going on when we still have the beautiful sun shining, but yet it still feels like we're in winter.
Right.
Something going on. And it's not a mystery to us. It's only a mystery unto those who do not know the times we're in. And so it's important that we understand. But they left that out or took it out because they didn't want us to know it. But let me tell you something, wherever truth is, and whenever you're hungry and thirsty for it, it'll always find you. Because when you're seeking it, you're going to always find it.
That's right.
And that's for sure. All right. Verse 20 now, that it is talking about the teachers who were the experts in the Torah and interpreting the other books. See, everybody can interpret all of the scrolls.
That's right.
So what they couldn't understand and interpret, they just disregarded it because they didn't understand it. Now, the injunction to teach in verses 18 and 19 goes to these people. So today that applies to many pastors and teachers who claim to have authority by Yahuwah by breaking his Torah. That tells you they do not. Because if you are a Torah breaker, then he did not call you. You called yourself.
That's right.
Now that except your uprightness shall exceed the righteousness or the uprightness of the scribes and Pharisees in the first century. The term had, let's look, come to mean unless you strive for salvation that is clothed from above. Some of the scribes and Pharisees had used their outward works to gain fame, but their inward life was dead and devoid of real Torah doctrine and obedience. We find the same in many congregations and churches, with teachers of the Bible / the scrolls. Are you following me?
Yes.
Once again, it's important that we understand we are clothed, and this is why, and I have the guards. I do. I wear my seats everywhere we go because I want people to know I'm a believer. That's right. And I believe the significance of these that helps us and it helps others, and it keeps our minds from going to horror. It keeps us in that place so we understand who we are, and it keeps us to where we remember who we are. So when we're out, we know we're representing him. And so we know how to conduct and govern ourselves. Are you following me?
Yes.
I keep mine on. I wear mine. And I appreciate the understanding of it better and more. But once again, it's important that those that wear the garb, that your heart also line up with where you're attire.
That's right.
Because you have to remember, they wore a lot of things. They wore the phylacteries, those little boxes tied on their hands and tied on their heads, and they wore their robes very long, or their their tunics very long. And so they had all of these things on them, but it was always for a show. They made sure that it was longer than the next person's. They made sure that if they had their seats on, they were dragging the ground, because everything to them was all about symbolism, and it was all about appearance. And I'm for that as well. But if your appearance is greater than what is going on truly in your heart, because whatever's in your heart is going to be manifested through what's going on outwardly.
That's right.
And if that is greater than what's going on the inside, you just have on some nice garbs, but you're still far away from what truly Abba Yahuwah desires of us as his people. And this is why we can never get caught up in the attire. We should always get caught up in his instructions. And when you get caught up in his instructions, then your attire, yes, it will mean something, and yes, it will be important to you, but not to the point where now it becomes a fashion statement. Because you understand the importance of what you are wearing represents Abba Yahuwah and his chosen.
That's right.
And not you being the grand Huban. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because a lot of time people just wear the attire. But when it comes to here, shallow and cold, and I'm not saying everybody, because I know some Ak and Akodi that dress well, and they have Yapa garments, and their hearts are right there. And it's not about the garments. It is about them conveying Torah truth to the prostituting sheep of Yisrael. That's what's important to us as his children. And so that's what's important. Once again, it's not a fashion statement, but it does make a statement.
That's right.
It makes a statement to the world and to our mishpachah, that we remember what our ancestors and forefathers did, and we will not find ourselves caught up in that.
That's right.
Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important unto us. Now, once again, does this mean that a teacher, that if he or she is less of an expert, that I as a teacher cannot enter the kingdom of Shemayim? No, it teaches we must strive to show ourselves approved for salvation and uprightness.
That's right.
Our salvation must exceed the level of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Our salvation has already exceeded that level if we are clothed with our Mashiach. It's important that we understand that.
That's right.
Because if not, we won't be able to represent well. Are you following me?
Yes.
You have some folk that know so much about the instructions and know the ins and outs, and I commend them. I do. And then you have those that teach where Abba Yah would have them to teach. I have really experienced those that I believe that are experts, and I've experienced those that teach on a level that I still would regard them as an expert, but their level may not be as deep as the next person's. That is a teacher, but I still respect them in the same respect, because guess what? We're still striving for that place. And we're not doing it to be combative, or we're not doing it because we're trying to compare how much information we have.
Sure.
Are you following me? We're doing it because we want to ensure that we'll convey what is needed to be conveyed to our mishpachah. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right, and it is so.
And it is so.
All right, now let us look at this. Now, this is one as well. I'm hoping I can get to this tonight. If not, we will get a chance. All right. All right. We'll go verse 21, 22. You have heard that it was said by them of ancient time, you shall not kill, and whoever shall kill shall be in danger of judgment. Therefore I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother shall be in danger of judgment. And whoever shall say to his brother or his Ak, you empty one, shall be in danger of the Sanhedrin. But whoever shall say, you fool, shall be in danger of the fire of Gehenna. Which is hell. All right, let's look at this. Let's go back up here real quick, because I might be able to touch just the tip of this. Now, listen what it says. You have heard that it was said by him of ancient time, you shall not kill, and whoever shall kill shall be in danger of judgment. Whenever you see, these are colons, right? The two dots are colons. whenever you see a colon, that what follows the colon helps to explain that which is before the colon.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Now, he says, therefore I say to you that whoever is angry with his ox shall be in danger of judgment. Why? Because remember, they were given instructions about killing, accidental killing, purposeful killing, because one may have gotten angry with his ox and they got into a brawl. Are you following me?
Yes.
And someone would end up getting killed. So what would cause that? Anger. So he is preparing them, and he's telling us, therefore I say to you that whoever is angry with his ox shall be in danger of judgment. Why would we be in danger of judgment? Because if you're angry and you don't deal with that anger, the next thing that happens is you can kill somebody.
Right.
Whether it is intentionally or by accident. So it's important that we look at what's being said. He said once again, now let's look at the colons again. And he continues, all this is one. This is not 21, 22. This is one statement and one action that's being spoken. And whoever shall say to his brother or his ox, you empty one, shall be in danger of the Sanhedrin. But whoever shall say, you fool, shall be in danger of fire of Gehenna, hell. Now you have to understand what empty one means. And I looked at this. And in the Aramaic, the term can also mean blockhead. So if you call somebody a blockhead, you can be in trouble. So that tells us name calling is not one of the things you want to get involved with.
That's right.
So whoever shall say to his ox, you empty one, or you blockhead, shall be in danger of the Sanhedrin. In other words, they were some of the strict that said, look, we ain't going to have all that name calling. We ain't going to have you calling this and calling them blockheads or empty ones. Because when you call somebody empty, you basically say they are void of anything.
Right.
They have no substance. They have nothing in them. And you know when you call somebody a blockhead, that's basically calling them stupid.
That's right.
Lack of understanding, ignorant. You have no kind of depth. So you will get in trouble with the Sanhedrin. He said, but whoever shall say, you fool, because remember, it is a fool that have said in his heart that there is no power, shall be in danger of the fire of Gehenna. So that means you have to be careful of what comes out of your mouth. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Now he says unto us, therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and there remember that your ox has something against you, leave there your gift before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your ox and then come and offer your gift. Once again, you have to understand 23 and 24 go together. That's not two statements. That's one instruction with that. So once again, you leave your gift. You cannot offer up anything if you're angry. You cannot offer up anything or go before Abba Yahuwah if anything is harboring in your heart. It says this can be seen in two ways. One is that the incident being referred to is the feast of Yom Kippur. This was when the Israel people would go and apologize to all the people they had wronged. Otherwise, their offering would not be accepted by Yahuwah while they held grudges or harbored any hatred for others. The other view is that before the Israel people would go up for the worship in the Bayith, Hakmadesh, they would have to reconcile first. We esteem the view that this is related to Yom Kippur. And you can find that in Vayikra chapter 23, or Vayikra 23, verses 17 and 29. And the gift is mentioned, or the gift is not mentioned in verse 17. But it is mentioned in Devarim 16 and 16. This confirms that Yahushua and his disciples kept all the feasts, including Yom Kippur. So he kept them all. He did not disregard any one. He kept the Sabbath and he kept all the feasts. So it's important that we understand that. Once again, how we govern ourselves. All right, let's see. All right, now 25 and 26, and we're going to stop there. And we will get a chance to, Yahuwah willing, get into this, because this was the the latter part I want to get to is really important to us as a people, especially with the views that many of our Mishpachah have concerning certain things, and continue to err in those ways because of erroneous teaching and erroneous interpretations of the writings of the scrolls, which has caused us to be in a major place of being at odds with one another. And so it's important that we understand Abba Yahuwah is not into confusion, or neither is he into the disruption, or the or neither does he sanction anyone hurting or disregarding, especially the Mishpachah, his Mishpachah, when it comes to certain theories and beliefs. And there are a lot of erroneous ones out there that have to be dismantled and rebutted in truth and in the scrolls. Right. You know, follow me? Yes. Because a lot of stuff has popped up and has caused many of people to be hurt because of the misinterpretation of these things. And a lot of it is just because of lust. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It is a lust. All right. Verse 25 says, reconcile with your accuser quickly while you are in the way with him, lest at any time the accuser deliver you to the judge, and the judge deliver you to the officer, and you be cast into prison. In other words, don't get to quarreling with nobody that's accusing you.
That's right.
But use wisdom. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Use wisdom. And verse 26 says, verily I say to you, you shall by no means come out there till you have paid the last Shemona, which is supposed to be one of the smaller coins. I believe I'm saying that, Shemona. In the Aramaic, this is rendered as the smallest coin. So until you pay your dues, you ain't getting up out of there. So you definitely don't want to find yourself in that situation. And it is so. And it is so. Yahuwah willing, will be able to come back to 27, 28, and 29, which is so important unto us, the children of power, because once again, there is a erroneous teaching and a belief that is out there that is causing people to believe, especially our that it's all right to defile, and it's all right to disrespect, and to even to some point agree with rape. You know, something wrong with that. There's something extremely wrong with that. But when you have people that have misinterpreted the scrolls and put this in writing, and there is an agreement with it, then people tend to gravitate to that because that's what's in the heart. That's what's in the heart. And so we're going to dismantle this thing, and we're going to rebuttal it with the scrolls, and we're going to bring this thing out, and we're going to deal with it, because it's an ugly thing that has come to try to cause the demise of us as a people. Together we stand, but divided we will never be able to grow and to develop. You have to understand the enemy is shrewd, and he always is doing something to try to ensure the demise of us, the children of power. But if we maintain that place and that posture of intercessory prayer, and that place of intercession, he will always give us the answer, and he will always give us what we need to rebuttal the enemy and to dismantle his kingdom and his theories and his views that continue to try to keep us trapped in those ways. So I say to you, Abba Yahuwah willing, we will come back and we will get to that, and we will continue to see the power of Abba Yahuwah operating and moving through us, through Yahusha HaMashiach. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Before we go, I told you I wanted to share something with you real quick. It's not going to take that long. And it's about the name of the Abba and Yahusha. His name comprises of 4 Ibram letters: Yod, Hey, Wav, Hey. And we read from right to left. Y'all, I'm so excited because, you know, these are things that are becoming more familiar to them. You know, you read stuff and, you know, you think, okay, we need it, but we need it. Y'all follow me? And I truly want to say, I told our Brother Amaziah for helping me to understand and continue to help me understand these things, and I got more questions and so forth. But when you look at Yod, which is the 10th Ibram letter, the picture is a closed hand when the arm is shaped like an L with a closed fist. The word meaning of the picture, to make, word, or deed. Hey is the 5th Hebrew or Ibram letter. Picture a man with his arms in the air. I'm not a man, but it looks something like that. Word meaning of the picture, behold, to reveal. Wa, the 6th letter, or Hebrew letter, word picture, nail, or peg. Word meaning of the picture, to add or to secure. It's amazing that when you put these together, how much it brings out, how much it shows us. The 4th and the 2nd letters of the Almighty's name are the same Ibram letter, Hey. What do we get when we add all these letters together? He who makes or creates, reveals, beholds, he secures, he reveals. The Almighty is the maker, creator, who reveals his plan, blueprint to us, his people, to build his mishpachah. Give them his Torah, giving us his Torah, teachings, instructions, commands, direction, laws. To behold them, watch over them, and observe them, securing them, attaching them firmly so that they cannot be moved or be lost, revealing them to his paths, leading to everlasting life. Does this not reflect the character of our Creator and Abba, he who created us and revealed his plan to us? Yo, that's phenomenal to me. That's why it's important that we understand our language, and we go and we get this thing so embedded in us. Because I believe it's just like a cogwheel. Once you get that wheel turning, there ain't gonna be no stopping. We'll be open to learn, because it'll awaken that what has been dormant in us for so long.
Sorry.
Our original language. And so once again, it's important that we understand his name, for his name is in his language.
That's right.
And his language is in his name. That to me is just so phenomenal. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Just like God, it's in its language. And its founders. G-O-D, G-U-D. Are you following me? 500 years old. So it's in that language. And so as I continue to learn, and there's so much out there, I've seen the different forms, the ancient, the Semitic forms, / Hebrew, modern, Greek, Latin, which comes into English. Then you have the Yiddish, which is the German form of it, where you get more of your V's and so forth and so on. So I've been sitting down every day looking backwards and forth over the different things, and just looking and looking to connect with others to help me to help others to understand our language. Because I'm telling you, we're going to need it. You can trust me on that. We're going to need our language.
That's right.
We need it now, but we're really going to need it because this is how we will be able to communicate with one another. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, I want to encourage you, keep your head up, keep your shoulders squared, and keep your heart and your feet in and upon the Torah, because you can't go wrong when you do these things. Once again, I am Prophetess Sabrina Brown, also Moral 777, and I want you to remember here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Bread Belief Ministries, this is the place where the Torah does the body excellent. I also want you to remember, I also want you to be Baruch by Abba Yahuwah as we continue to move forward in this hour and this season. I also want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so. And it is so.